Good evening. This is Grayson Marshall Jr., the metacognition maven, the guy that gets you to believe in you, and that gentleman right there.
Dr. Adrian, never forget the A Gentry, the guy that helps you choose excellence in every part of your life.
Monday again. I hope you saw the last couple of weeks. We're talking about the non-negotiables of dating. I want to again thank Erica Wortherly and Jennifer Smith for being our guests last week. Great conversation on and offline, just about the topic itself. And what's funny is it kept going. Right. I mean, obviously, as the weeks went on, people were still talking about it, and they wanted to know more of where we were. So what Doc and I do, and this is more like Wayne's World. We're very impromptu when it comes. So we just kind of make it happen when it's here. We don't have any, we don't have a teleprompter. We don't have any statistics. We just talking.
Right.
And so tonight I hit Doc up this morning. I said, the dilemma of doubt. I said, let's talk about that tonight. And so that's what we're going to talk to you about tonight, the dilemma of doubt. It is and has been from the beginning a major problem going all the way back to the garden.
Absolutely.
The enemy just created enough doubt, and it wasn't even fear. He created doubt. And I think folks need to understand that doubt is the precursor of fear. Doubt is what really brings fear to life.
Correct.
So the dilemma. Let's look at the world we live in today. With all this stuff with COVID-19, everything else. Doubt, to me, is more prevalent than fear. And I may be wrong there, but here's my belief about it. There's so much in not knowing.
Right.
I'm not afraid to get it. You're not afraid to get it. So I don't think fear sits in as many people as doubt does. Doubt becomes insecurity.
Right.
Doubt becomes the inability for them to make a true sound decision. But I think for a lot of them, they would say that that's my caution. That's my, I'm just, as you said earlier, I'm a realist.
Right.
So I think for some people, they have literally taken doubt and used it as their excuse, used it as the reasoning for justifying how they feel. So I think it creates a dilemma for so many people because there's a group of people out there, Doc, I believe that know that this is just a virus.
Right.
Now, obviously to them, it's more of a virus than anything else because of the marketing behind it. But at the end of the day, when we look at this virus, initially it was all about how many people were going to die from coronavirus.
Correct.
Or COVID-19. Then when the death rates weren't matching the intended fear,
Right.
then it was the cases. Now it's about the cases, the number of cases that are out there. But again, the narrative has gone from deaths to cases. So I think the doubt continues to rise. Is it serious? How serious is it? We were talking before, Mr. Petty asked, did we think sports was going to be in? And I think, Mr. Petty, we talked about earlier, that people are doubting if it's going to happen. They don't know. And I think that's more, I don't think anybody's afraid of football. I think they're doubting what's going to happen, what could happen.
Well, I think truthfully and honestly, doubt is a form of fear, right? It's a form of, it's the completely one opposite of faith, right? It's not,
no doubt.
It's non-existent. Faith is still exists where there's doubt. But faith is what cures doubt. And I think many times we've been battled, bruised, beat up so much that doubt has now become our default, right? So instead of getting ourselves excited about anything, we go to doubt, right? And we've been taught this over and over again from a child. We have to realize our personalities are created before 7 years old. So as long as our personalities have been molded by someone else that's doubtful, fearful, deals with deeper insecurities, that's what we now default to as adults.
Right. Now, why didn't it bother you? Why don't you have the doubt that other people seem to have? Because about what this? Yeah, because for me, because we talked about that developing at the age 7, and if I look back at my life, that rings true because I didn't doubt anything. I mean, I don't believe, Doc, that kids really have doubt. I wonder what kid, Mr. Petty, is walking around here worried about COVID-19. I mean, I'm serious. What kid is actually really worried about it? They hear about it. They know they can't do stuff. They know they're unable to do stuff. But what kid is really worried about it?
No. And it's based off what we focus on.
Right.
You know, I think we lose that imaginary mind when we're a child.
No doubt.
When we're a child jump off of, I don't know me, you could get me to not do anything.
Exactly.
Right? And you always believed. If someone told you something, you believed. And maybe it was a naive type of belief.
Right.
But at the same token, you believed it was going to happen. And I think after being battered and bruised throughout life, we lose that ability to be able to still focus on what's positive. And majority of us, like I said before, it's our default.
Right.
So we're actually looking for something to go wrong, right? We doubt that great things can happen to us because our fixation is not on the great things that have happened to us, but on the things that have happened that are bad.
Let me ask you this. Can doubt lead to faith? And here's what I'm asking. Doubt tends to lead to more negativity.
Correct.
And I think that's where people's dilemma is. I think at some level people think that doubt is the way that's what they have to overcome to become faithful. Like I have to go through this doubt process in order to get to faith. You know what I'm saying? Like I think people think that way. Like my doubt is they would say that my doubt is normal. You should have doubt.
And I think everybody says we should have fear. I think everybody says we should be we should have a lot of things. You get what I'm saying? And I think it's a justification of what I have. And the more you're around people who think like you, they will continue to justify those doubts, those fears, those insecurities that you work with on a daily basis. And I think that's a huge part of walking in a life of faith, to be honest with you, right? Is who is around you.
Right.
I think we never focus on the training, the retraining of our brains, right? So if something happens one time, the narrative that we tell ourselves continuously, over and over and over again, right? We tend to focus on the negative. One story I love in the Bible always would be David. I talk about David a lot, right? And I look at David, and when he went out to go kill Goliath, and they said, you know what, the people around him, no one believed him as a kid, right? Like, who was this dirty kid that was out there playing with the sheep? And the first thing David said, he says, take my armor. He said, I don't need your armor. He said, listen, he said, you can't fight him. He's been fighting grown men since he was a kid. And David said, you know what, I used to have to go out and pull the sheep out of the lion's mouth and the bear's mouth, right? So what he fixated on, and I tell anybody, anytime you're looking at redeveloping or building your faith, reprogramming your mind, the first thing you have to do is go look for your lions and your tigers and your bears, right? And your lions and your tigers and your bears tend to be the things you went through in your life that you thought were going to stop you, right? That the things the gifts you thought that weren't coming. It was the death that you thought you wasn't going to get over, that relationship that, you know what, it almost killed you. You know what I mean? Write those things down because those are your lions and your bears. So when I'm looking at my lions and my bears and the things that I've had to overcome in my life, I can no longer, it's harder for me to doubt that I can't get through the next situation.
I got you. So therein lies the dilemma. The dilemma is the same people who are struggling with that are the same people that claim they want to go further in life. They want to become successful. And that's the dilemma that you face. The dilemma is that at some level you have aspirations to become successful. At some aspirations you have the attitude of David that I can fight my Goliaths, but you're riddled in, you're enamored by, you're overcome with doubt at every corner. And I think when we look at people in the world today, that becomes their dilemma, because if you ask them what they wanted to be, they would give you this whole long list. You talked about earlier, getting their dreams back, wanting to become successful. We're going to talk to them later about things that they can do that way. But how do they deal with this current dilemma? And right now, society and media doesn't help. It's driving home a narrative that seems to be so negative, that seems to be I literally am listening to people, and I'm telling you, I had to cut stuff off sometimes. And I've gotten mature enough to just roll past certain posts on Facebook. Because it really gets to me that people can actually be this way. They actually can think this way. And it's frustrating at times, because my heart and your heart is to get people to the other side. But sometimes you make me realize how far you are and how stuck you want to stay. So doubt in and of itself, how can someone begin to move beyond it? What's one of the things you can do? We're going to give you a bunch of them, but what are some of the things people can do to move beyond doubt?
Well, and I think you have to understand, one, where doubt comes from, right? And the opposite of doubt. The opposite of doubt is confidence, right? Okay. And a lot of people's confidence is broken, and I talk about it all the time. If you read one of the scriptures, it says faith comes by confidence, right? Confidence. You have to understand that confidence is a major part of, lack of confidence is a major part in doubt. And most people have never thought about the physiology of life, right? How does your body play a part in your level of confidence or your level of fear or doubt, right? And I tell everybody, the first thing you want to do is this easy fix. We can all have a level of confidence, but you have to change your physiology. So let's do something real quick. Let's try this real quick, right? So if you're watching right now, one thing I want you to do, right? I want you to stand up, right? So let's just stand up real quick, right? So instantly you can change your confidence. And I learned this when I was a child, right? When I was a kid, I used to have this walk. I used to walk through the hallways. You'd be like, oh my God, who is he? Superman? But I had this confidence about myself, this air about myself. And I realized early, by just changing the way I stood, like, so everybody that's watching, put your shoulders back, right? Okay. And I want you to stand in the stance like you're about to attack somebody. Like you're the absolute best. You know, you got that suit on. Women, y'all got that red, red dress on with them heels. Like, feel the confidence that's in you. And just by changing your physiology, you can actually feel confident. Like, think about it right now. You're on stage and you're talking to people. Right. How does that make you feel right now?
No question. I love that.
Right. You got your face on right now. Like, that's the face you have to walk into it. So it's a trick to change your physiology and change your level of confidence and cure your doubt. That's the one way we can possibly do it. But most people don't understand. Just changing their physiology will change the way they think.
Okay, but you said something here that I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do. Do what they love to do. I think confidence, well, you're talking about me speaking or the things you like to do. When I'm in front of folks, I love what I do. And I think so many people in the world have had someone else tell them what they're good at. They've had someone else tell them, this is what I'm going to pay you for. And I don't think that they're able to walk in that full confidence in what they're doing. So for so many people, and we talk about where doubt comes from, I believe not only does it come from what you said, but it comes from our inability to actually think and execute and engage on our own. We're constantly told by other people what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And I think it rings true in our lives with everything, with the aspect of what's going on right now. We've been told it's bad. We've been told this is the case. We've been told this is the situation. And because people have been literally trained to operate in what they're told, and that's in a lot of areas of their life. I'm a basketball coach. So my kids who play for me, they do what I tell them to do. Now, the one thing that I've done, the one thing that people miss, is giving them the freedom to be them.
Correct.
Giving them, so here's what we do. Here's our philosophy. But we have to be able to do whatever they allow us to do. Whatever they give us an opportunity we want to do.
Right.
So when I'm looking at you talking about physiology, I think that's a big thing. How I walk, how I handle myself. But I believe that you have to love what you do for that physiology to really engage and take place. Because if I don't love it, then I'm still going to walk defeated, down, despondent.
But that's a choice. See, physiology is what you can do to change it at that moment. Now, I'm not saying the entire life, your whole life, now becomes confident about whatever you do. I'm saying in those moments, of doubt, you can change your physiology. Because if you notice, if you put your shoulders down and you talk lower, now you have a whole different disposition, right? So it's how we move our bodies. But the second thing is what you're talking about, which is mental, right? It's a mental reaction. Like, how do we think of things? What do we focus on? And that's where the big problem comes in with majority of people, because they're fixated on their losses, one, right? Second, if I have a conflict internally, I'm having the same conflict externally. So I have to begin to find out what makes me tick. Because I don't have to be great at menu at a roofing company. At first, menu knew nothing about roofing. Right? So it wasn't something that we were passionate about. But we were confident enough to go out and sell roofs. Why were we confident enough to do that? Because we didn't focus on what could go wrong. What we focused on was what?
What can go right.
What can go right. So most people are stuck in a pattern, right? They're running the same tape. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes wrong? When I tried this over here, it didn't go right. It didn't go right. So until we start to really gravitate to you know what, I'm going to only focus on what can go right,
Right.
or I'm going to ask myself the questions, the right questions,
Right.
right? And that's what we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else.
No question. And it's always going to be unanimous when we have that discussion.
Absolutely.
But you said something there, focus on your failures. And here's why the dilemma exists, ladies and gentlemen, because failure is the only way to success.
Correct.
I've got to fail in order to succeed. But if I focus on my failures, then I create the dilemma of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to fail. That's part of it.
Absolutely.
So the dilemma exists is I have to do this.
Right.
But when it becomes my focus, my fixation, it takes me in another direction.
Absolutely.
So I have to bypass this way. So all of you all listening, here's the dilemma. You have to fail to succeed.
Correct.
So you have to deal with this no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a dilemma because it's part of the process.
Because right, but we've taught we
Right.
shouldn't fail.
Or we're afraid to anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, no. We're taught that failure is a bad thing.
Correct.
You talk
Correct.
about that all the time.
Correct.
So if I'm taught that failure is a bad thing, it goes back to, once again, now I have to reprogram my mind and realizing that it's not working.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
But-
what
but
I'm
is it
doing
not working?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
you got me on
Corona
that.
break. Is it not? Is it not working?
No, you got me on that.
Right.
You're correct. It's working to the potential. It's working as far as you know.
Correct.
But it's not giving you the abundance that you want, and you
Right.
can't figure out where the disconnect is.
Right now, because here's the deal: doubt creates the inability to think long term,
Correct.
and your success has to be long term.
Correct.
So when we're sitting here with dilemma again, we're back to I have to fail.
Mm-hmm.
My immediate satisfaction is not validated.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm working for is down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot get down the road unless I go through these failures. So this dilemma sits here. So what's the answer? The answer is, for most people, become comfortable, become average, and become sheep.
Right.
Because if I become sheep, see, here's the thing. The next part I want to talk about with this dilemma of doubt. It's on me.
Correct. That's the problem.
When I have to deal with me, then I'm responsible. The way doubt creates is it puts it on somebody else.
Correct.
It puts the onus and allows me the escape to say, hey, you know what, they told me wrong, or they led me wrong, or the company did me wrong, or the people did me wrong, the government did me wrong, whatever it is. So now my doubt, I can cast that disparaging commentary on the person that led me the wrong way.
Correct. Well, and that's not one whole accountability for myself.
Right.
Right. We talked about it last week, right? Faith comes by hearing. Right.
Hearing by the word of God. Yes,
Hear by
sir.
the word of God, right? So not just that. It says guard your ear gates, guard your eye gates, right? Whatever flows through it, right? So what we have to realize is we're literally creating the doubt inside of ourselves, right? What we're listening to, who we're talking to on a regular basis, what you're thinking about. As a man thinketh, so he becomes. That's what's going through your mind. And so until we begin to really reprogram our brain, and the way I began to do that, and I had to realize that, right? I had to realize the more I consume of something, the better or worse I was going to become, right? So my thing became books, right? Books, audio, every personal development thing I can get my hands on, that's all I would consume. And I started realizing, look, I told you about, started when I started my first personal development company, Faith Eats. And I was watching TV, and all I seen was negativity, negativity, negativity. You have to realize, looking at once again, your physiology,
Right.
it all works together. Anytime you feel anxious, frustrated, happy, mad, something's taking part in your body right then. And I think many times we don't really check in with ourselves. And I mean, check in with ourselves is how do we really feel about what's happening right now around us.
Right.
So as you're watching, let's say the news, which is 95% negative, you don't realize you're creating anxiety inside of yourself.
doubt.
Your physiology is changing. Your body language is completely changing. And you have to start feeding on the things that are right.
Is doubt a belief system?
Correct. One of them.
Would most people agree?
That doubt is a belief system?
Yeah. I don't, and I agree, but I don't. I believe that most people would say that it isn't because it has a negative connotation. I don't think people would admit that their doubt is a belief system. They would probably admit that doubt exists.
They would justify
that they
it.
have correct, but it's a belief system, and I think literally you can be conditioned to doubt everything. You can be conditioned to be that way, and it's obvious with the way people are acting in the world today. It's unbelievable how much doubt is out there. And I asked this question earlier, and I'm going to ask every one of you all out there. I constantly see the argument about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask. I've been lambasted by folks but when I say I don't really want to wear one, people go off on me about it, left and right. Here's my question to all of you all that are really into the mask thing and how it works. And I'm not here to debate that with you. You feel what you feel, I'm going to feel what I feel. But who is the entity, Dr. Gentry? Those of you all watching, who is the person? Who are the body of people that are going to be the person that says that it's okay that this is over? I would love for y'all to type that in for me. With all that's going on right now, what organization, what person, what entity is going to be able to say to you, it's okay not to wear a mask, and you're going to accept it? Because I don't believe that there's any consistent commentary when it comes to it. Right. Is it the World Health Organization? Am I going to listen to them? Am I going to listen to the CDC? They've been back and forth the whole time. Is it going to be the current president, the new president? Is it Dr. Fauci? Who is it going to be that is going to lift the fear or doubt off of this entire world?
Oh, and I think most people don't know. I mean, you have to believe. I mean, you have to realize that in our entire life we've been trained to listen to someone else,
right?
Never really think for ourselves, right? So the ability to critically think has been completely diminished over the years.
I get it,
right? The faith in it's really interesting because we have more faith in human, we have more faith in teachers than we do in God and His Word, and that's what we've really come to. Now, most people will say I'm a Christian. Most people will say I believe in Christ. However, believe more in man to change us or to bring us out of a situation than we do God Himself.
We've been together too long because you just stole it from me. That's why I was here. We've been together too long because that's what I was about to say that. So all of these entities you're looking for, yet the one entity that claims to be the healer, Jehovah Rapha, he's omniscient, omnipotent. He's omnipresent.
Correct.
He says he'll never leave you, forsake you. Mm-hmm. I have yet to hear consistent commentary about how God is going to fix this.
Correct.
We literally have more faith in a red or blue color.
Correct.
We have more faith than President Trump or whoever else is next.
Correct.
We have more faith in Dr. Fauci. We have faith in Bill Gates, who is a computer person. And the computer man is talking about, I sent a video out today that I know going to be snatched down, but it talked about eugenics. It talked about the whole succession of Planned Parenthood and all these things and how it ended up where it is today with the people of influence that there are. There's no coincidence. But we're back to this whole thing. It's 2020. We have so many differentiating mindsets, thoughts, beliefs. There's doubts everywhere. There's so many people right now frustrated with the Black Lives Matter movement because as they're looking at the movement, they're realizing it's really not about lifting blacks up or shifting Black America. And that's the sad part about it. There is a contingency of people out there that really want to see an improved lifestyle for Black America. But it's gotten lumped into Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the underlying presence. So again, now people are doubting the stuff that they're actually emotionally connected to. So it permeates every aspect of life. But back to what you were saying, when is it or is it ever going to get to the place where we focus on God being the answer?
Well, and I think it's hard. I think it's hard because now we have so many, and I call this the information age, but I really would say the lack of information age.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
Because we're pressed with so much information that we don't know what to believe anymore. Right? And we stop fixating on biblical principle.
Why is that? Why do we walk away from biblical principle when this stuff happens?
Well, because we've been trained now to operate off emotion. See, I have doubt because I don't truly know who I am or what I am or what to believe. That's why doubt exists. So until we get back to, once again, what you're feeding on. your belief system becomes doubtful because of hurt, pain, right? And not knowing where to place that hurt, not knowing where to place that pain, not knowing how to fix that disappointment, and understanding that, you know what, you are someone's. And I think a lot of times when you don't, you ever want to see someone who's nervous about everything, watch a person who's insecure with themselves. And every decision that you make, and I was there before. You know what I mean? I was there when I went through a divorce. It felt like everything was my fault, right? So everything that I tried to touch, it wouldn't go right because guess what? I doubted down to my cooking. I went to school for cooking, coach. I couldn't cook collard greens no more. It was sad. So like anything I tried to cook, I could no longer cook. Why? Because I had doubt in the back of my mind, right? I had forgotten who I was. I was still trying to relearn myself, so to speak. And I tell you, I say it all the time. Father to baby daddy. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, what am I now? You know what I mean? I went from a husband. I dreaded the word boyfriend. You know what I mean? Went to a boyfriend. Went from an entrepreneur, working with somebody. And I didn't know how to frame that disappointment. I didn't know how to frame that transition. And it wasn't really until I began studying, again, like really digging deep, not just digging deep to find out facts in the Bible, to really digging deep to find out what God had for me, that doubt began to subside. And my confidence began to come back when I started focusing on reprogramming my brain to understand that, Adrian, you know the stuff you've been through in your life, that you should have been dead, you know what I mean? Right. This was only a phase in it, but I had to refocus my mind.
James 1:5 says this, if any man has doubt, he should not expect anything from God. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe at some level that it's because of the fact that we have so much doubt, people are distrusting of who God is and what he can do, which to me is a sad state of life because we want to claim and call ourselves Christians. We really want to talk about how great God is and what God can do, but yet when the chips are on the table and the stakes are high, nobody wants to default there. And I really don't understand that. I mean, I understand the nature of man, but I guess because I've been through so much and you've been through so much, it's kind of hard for me to even go any other direction. I can't think any other way. I can't even imagine not trusting God.
But you know what? And I want everybody to realize this as we're speaking. Like, there are moments, right? And I need people to understand, don't be down because you have a moment of doubt.
Correct.
Right? Don't be down when doubt overcomes you, because guess what? It's going to overcome the best of us. There's no way in heck I can say, I know everything's going to work out all the time. Sometimes I got to go to sleep, take a nap, a whole bunch of things that happen wrong. It's like, am I doing the right thing? But I don't stay there. Like you told me, I don't stay in that place that long. Right? So after I take my nap or do what I have to do to refocus myself, I'm back on and I understand the problem.
But is that doubt?
What's that?
Is that doubt? Is that because to me, and we're just talking about this, but to me, doubt becomes a lifestyle. Apprehension, second guessing. Again, all those are in the doubt family, but to me, doubt is something that...
a lot of words for it.
Exactly, and I believe that there's different levels. When I think we're talking about not staying there long, I think apprehension would fall in that category. But I think doubt is almost at the level of pessimism. It's almost at the level of, I just don't think it's ever going to work out. Or I can't see how it's going to work out. But I think there's, like yourself, there's people that, all right, did I do that one right? But I did it now, so I can keep going. I don't think that's doubt. And it may be, and all of it may be lumped in the same category. I just believe that there's a dilemma there. Maybe it's because there are multiple categories of doubt. Maybe there's different levels of doubt, and maybe people find themselves in certain areas with it, and maybe that creates a dilemma because there's gradual or progressing levels of doubt. And I think the more you fail, the level of doubt increases. When, in essence, the more you fail, you become closer to success. So again, it's all about how you see that whole process.
And I go back to the tape. What do we look at? What do we fixate on?
Right.
What do we focus on? Right? Because if I look back at a lot of failures in my life right now, I can look at skills that I picked up.
No question.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
I can look back at lessons that I've learned. It's a difference between me if I look at someone who's bitter out of a relationship, they gotten out of a relationship and they're bitter, they've looked at every relationship and everything that's been done to them and never picked up the lessons. That's why the only reason you can remain bitter, right? And I think the only reason you can have such doubt that it affects your entire life is you're focusing on that, right? And the people around you have the same types of doubts. You hang around them because they validate you, right? And it creates this insecurity inside of you. What you have to understand is the insecure mind is on a constant quest to prove itself right?
Correct.
So what it's doing is it's going out looking for more information to prove that it is correct, it is right. Think about a male or a woman who's insecure. You can shake their hand, and if their spouse sees it, automatically they believe they're cheating, they like you. It's looking for information. So instead of looking for that information, you have to understand that, one, it's a lie, right? Because he's saying I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? So that's the promise that I had. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So if I back that up behind that doubt, right? Then at that point, I can begin to retrain my brain to look in a different direction. Most people won't look in that direction because they're fixated on where they are today.
Well, what you said a minute ago was about this. They want to be right or wrong. And I think that comes down to the doubt complex. In the garden, they weren't sure whether they were right or wrong anymore. And they wanted to be right. So I think people in life want to be right.
Correct.
And they believe that the majority is always right. So they're going to go with the prevailing thought of, I don't want to go against the grain. I don't want to challenge the status quo, which goes against my complete why statement. Because my personal life why statement is this: to challenge the mindset and belief systems of the status quo so that they can think differently, act intentionally, and grow successfully. So at the end of the day, that's me. So stuff like this is beautiful for me. You talked about learning the lessons. And I said this maybe early in the show or off air. I've learned to maturely sift through my social media feed. Because if I acted like I used to act, I would engage at every conversation. But I can't, because I can't get fixated on that dialogue. It's going to go nowhere. It's going to be non-productive. It's going to be time absorbing, time consuming, and not bring anything of value to my life.
Correct. As a child, I thought as a child. Right.
And when I became a man, I put away childish things.
And I think many times, and that's where we go back to the doubt. Doubt is based off of clear emotions. Right. And you cannot prove many of the things that you're doubting. Right. There's no tangible proof that it's going to fail. There's no tangible proof that it's not going to work, right? It's all based off of emotion. Until we get to a point, and I say that reason, when I was a child, I thought as a child, because a child thinks irrationally. It thinks off of emotion. It's not believing, you know what I mean? It's not looking at any of the factors. I believe I can fly. No, there's no proof to that. But you believe that you can do it. And that's what doubt is. It's an emotional response, right, of fear. So you look back at the 5-second rule. 5-second rule says you have to do something within 5 seconds or immediately you'll begin to talk yourself out of it. Why? Because our brain literally wants to look for fault. It wants to look for the things that go wrong. So you have to begin to focus on the rational, the logic of things. Have I ever failed at this before? No. If I have failed at this before, why did I fail? See, now I'm taking out the emotion and I'm looking at it from a rational standpoint. If you can do it, I can do it, right? That's proof to me. I don't care what anybody says. It has nothing to do with my emotion. So when I started focusing on me, and you know me, I'm the type of person that look at stuff from 4 or 5 different angles before I come to a conclusion. So, one person might look at it and say, well, he did this. And I'm like, well, do you know what she, you know what I'm saying? Do you know what she did? You know? So after you start looking at more sides of it, you begin to believe it. You realize that, you know what? I see why he did it. But I don't think many people do that. We run off emotions, right? I remember I posted on my wall right after the guy was murdered, right? And I said, what's worse? You know what I mean? What's worse, us tearing us down as African American, on why are y'all mad when they do it, why we ain't as mad as when we do it. Everybody cuss me out. They was mad about it, mad about it, right? But I'm looking at it from a rational standpoint, right? What if we stop tearing each other down, right? Then we would alleviate the doubt that most of us have in our lives. What if we begin to fix us? Right? Rational. This is completely rational. It has nothing to do with emotion. People cuss me out in straight emotion. No, this is real life. Right? And then until we get to that point where we can start realizing, are we dealing with emotion? Are we dealing with rationale? We'll always face doubt.
No question.
Right? So if I believe God's word is true, that's a truth. That's logical. God said I can do this. That's proof enough for me. Let's move forward.
Again, that's the dilemma of doubt. It is walking in that fear. But here's what I find ironic. Most people's doubt has nothing to do with what happened to them. It's what they heard happen to somebody else.
You let somebody pour into you. Right?
it's like, because I know people who have not been diagnosed with coronavirus, ain't been diagnosed with COVID-19, but they know somebody that was. And because they know somebody that was, and we're not, look, I'm not talking about any loved ones that you've lost. That's not the point I'm getting at here. The point I'm getting at is this: doubt in and of itself is usually directed at something we heard from someone else. It rarely has ever happened to us, because if it happened to us and you survived, there can be no more doubt.
Correct. That I know I can survive it.
Correct.
Because now I have, once again, a lion and a bear to put on this category of something I survived.
Which makes me almost crazy that you're going on what somebody else, you don't know what they put in. You and I have both been exposed to multiple streams of income on many different occasions. And we've been successful in the direct selling industry. And I know people who will not get involved or apprehensive about it because they heard what somebody else did.
My auntie, my uncle, my cousin, they said it was a scam. You've never looked at the information. You don't understand what the business model is. And that's what I mean. We let people pour their doubt into us.
Exactly.
Right? Because all it really does is validate our fears.
Right.
It allows us to not have to take action.
But they say they want more out of life. They say they want something.
Because that's what you're supposed to say. Like I realize this in most people. If change was so easy, I think somebody said it the other day. We were on a podcast. They say women just want truth.
Right.
And I say that's a lie.
Right.
Right? Like they say men want truth. I say that's a lie. Right? The grim reality is you don't want truth, because if you had truth, you would have to do something with it.
Correct.
Majority of people want to be told something to stroke their ego and make them feel better.
Right.
So what we're constantly looking for is people that validate us. We want friends that's going to say it's going to be all right, instead of saying, nah, you screwed up.
Right.
So we don't want truth. So we hang around people who validate our fears.
Right.
We hang around people that validate our insecurities.
Right.
We hang around people where we do not have to grow.
Right.
And until we start to shift that, because that's all people doing is sitting around pouring doubt in it. You know how many people then told me they have never owned businesses? You shouldn't own businesses.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
You know how many people who don't own homes, have never been in real estate, are telling me, man, the market about to crash. How do you understand this? Like, where are you reading this information from? It was funny because they said new home builders are having the best the best month ever in June.
Right.
But if I would listen to you instead of living off emotion and lived off emotion, I would be fearful as well. I would have doubt in every day, everything that I did.
So why don't we?
Huh?
Why don't we have that? Why is it that we don't have that doubt? Because again, we're both minorities. Mm-hmm. We're black males. Mm-hmm. We've both been divorced.
Correct.
We've gone through a bunch of stuff in our lives. I've been homeless. I've been without. You name it. I had car repossessed. You name it. Evicted. You name it. I done it all.
Right.
So at the end of the day, why is it that I don't have an ounce of doubt, and people that ain't never had a ticket, ain't never been sick,
they're scared.
ain't never scared to death?
Mortified.
I don't understand that.
Mortified. And I think sometimes, I think it's how we count our blessings. I think it's how we focus on the situation, right? Like, I love football, right? When I was growing up, love playing football, right? You get hit, you get up. That's what I was taught. Right. You know what I mean? You got a broke leg? Well, tape it up. That's how you keep going.
Exactly.
Keep it going. Keep it going, right? So my mother was always one. I remember once I was like 5 or 6, and I got jumped by 2 twins, right? Two cousins, right? They jumped on me, it beat me up. I went in the house. I'm crying. My mama, Sharita wasn't having it, right? So Sharita pushed my behind right back outside, right? So he's like, well, you gotta go fight him again. And she told me at that point in my life, she says, I don't care if you gotta baseball bat, brick, whatever you got to do, you win.
Right.
So me, it's not the fixation of what happened. I think me and you go back and introspect what happened back then.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we introspect, and that's what a lot of people don't want to do.
Right.
Is they don't want to look at what was their cause in the problem. They don't want to look at and make the hard choices of, okay, that friend is not good for me anymore. It's time to let that person go. That's all dealing with the programming we have.
Right.
You know, how we've been programmed over the years. And I think more people, even the people on here, you have to stop looking at your failures. They weren't failures.
No, exactly. Exactly.
You know, they weren't failures at all.
No. But again, anything that's not affirmative or that shows positive action right then is a failure. And at the end of the day, that's not the way that it works. And we look at, when I look at my life, I say to myself, okay, doubt exists. You have a dilemma. Do you doubt or do you believe? And I think that's what it comes down to. And we wonder why certain people become successful. They have the same choice.
Correct.
They have the same dilemma.
Correct.
How do you deal with that dilemma?
Correct.
I choose to look at it this way.
Right. And I know more people on this is watching this tonight. Right. Somebody has a business idea right now that they've wanted for years. Right. Someone wants to be in a relationship right now and they have the perfect person standing in front of them.
Right.
Somebody right now is wanting to step out of their job, but they keep doubting.
Pull the trigger.
Right? They will not pull the trigger. And the thing is, they won't pull the trigger not based off of what they've experienced, but what other people have told them.
And I think that's the biggest thing, Doc, is, and you've said it a couple of times, but I want to make sure that y'all get this. The majority of the doubt that you have did not come from your personal experience.
None.
You didn't go through it.
Right.
It's what somebody else told you. And you're never going to become successful in what God called you to do if your response to him is, well, so-and-so didn't do it.
Right.
Can you imagine if God literally told Moses, go tell Pharaoh to let my people go? And he was like, look here, God. I think he was stuttering anyway. He was stuttering. That's why he had to take Aaron with him. But at the end of the day, what if he said, well, you know what? They done tried to get free before.
Right.
And last time, well, I'm not going there.
Right.
I mean, the thought of this, when it comes down to it, can you imagine if Jesus, and he did. Here's what's funny. You're talking about the doubt. Jesus literally, and it wasn't doubt, but Jesus was like, look at here. Can we do something else? I'm about to get on that. Yeah, I'm about to get on this cross on Friday.
Is this what we're supposed to be doing?
Can we do something else? Is it possible?
Right.
He said, if it's possible, can you let this cup pass before me? Can we do something else?
Right.
No, this is what we got to do. He said, not my will, but thy will. So at the end of the day, I think if we, y'all look, stop wearing WWJD braces if you're not going to do what Jesus did. Because what he did was, he asked for an alternative plan, and there wasn't one. Follow through with it.
Right.
Now, how did he know that going to the cross was going to get all these folks saved? He didn't. He said, God said, this is the way you have to go. There was apprehension. I don't believe there was doubt. There was apprehension because he wouldn't have agreed to the mission if he doubted it. But I think that the dilemma for most folks, Doc, is the different levels of doubt. Because some people will say caution is doubt. Okay, so I'm just being cautious.
Yeah.
I'm just being cautious.
It's not doubt.
It's not doubt. I'm just being cautious. Well,
I'm just paranoid. You know, I like to scope everything out first.
Again, you understand and need to understand that faith is the only way you can please God.
And this is what I love. Once again, I can go back to the Bible. I can look at it, right? The reason they stayed in the desert for so long was due to their doubt.
Correct.
Right?
Well, here's what's funny. So explain this to me. We're talking about Joshua and Caleb and the 12 spies, right? Going in the promised land. They all went in there. All of them saw the same thing. 2 came back and said, it's just like he said it was.
Yeah.
The other 10 said, oh no,
it wasn't.
Nothing but giants in there. The same land. So why did the 2 see something different?
But you have to look at Aaron. I mean, not Aaron. You have to look at Moses. He didn't go in. He didn't get to go in. Why?
Right.
Why? Because he's doubting, right? Like we stay in the position, in the place for so long, in a relationship for so long because nobody else is going to want us. That if I leave this, then I'm not going to be able to prosper. We don't walk out, step out, and build that business. Why? Because you know what? It's not going to work. Think about this for a second. The longer you're staying in it, your reason you're in the position that you're in is because of doubt. You're a slave to doubt. right? You're a slave to doubt and a slave to your position, to your circumstance at the exact same time. So you have to look back and choose one, right? So I'd much rather go out in that forest that I don't know what's out there versus staying in the hell that I'm in today. The people of Israel stayed in the desert for 40 years because they had nothing but doubt and kept questioning God. So I think about how many people today, right now, watching this, have so much doubt that business that you could have started last year could have been making $1 million today, but guess what? You're still trying to struggle to pay your bills. You have doubt. You're staying in your circumstances because of that doubt. And I think that's where most people fail.
And I want to talk to everybody out there who did step out. Because what's happened because of COVID-19, Doc, some of those people that stepped out, they lost their businesses. Some of those people that stepped out literally lost everything. I'm going to tell you that you can't worry about where things are right now.
Correct.
You stepped out, that's the pattern of life you got to keep going. Because people will say right now, well, I didn't step out and look, I'm still doing all right. I'm still working for the government. See, that's why I didn't open no business because, but you don't understand you're subject to control and rule the rest of your life. All of you all that stepped out, every last one of you, do not go back. Now, if you have to take care of your family, do what you got to do. But don't go back mindset-wise. No. You stepped out. Yes, the economy is where it is. But I'm going to tell you something. There's folks out here that are making money right now. Dr. Gentry is making money right now. We're making money right now. Why? Because we've chosen to see the opportunity that exists right now. Let me tell you something. There's a group of people that don't doubt because they see opportunity in everything that goes on. Somebody who sees the rain coming, they're going to go buy some umbrellas and hand them out selling. Somebody going to find a way when you get creative and innovative and don't see anything but that good side of it.
Correct.
I'm going to make some money. You have to decide that that's you, but when somebody else is controlling what you do, think, say, believe, and act on, you can only do what they do. Again, I'm going to ask you, all of you all that are concerned about the mask, the rising cases, all these things, who is the entity, who is the person, what group, what entity will make you safe enough to say that it's okay to take the mask off?
And that's what I said. Even the Christians.
Correct.
It's crazy to me. Even the Christians, right? We're in an era, even the atheists can live by godly principles. They believe in giving.
No
right?
question.
So I was reading a book one time, God, complete atheist. He says, anytime that I had a problem, the first thing I do is I gave. He said, I know I gave and I will receive it back.
They understand the principles.
They understand the principles. They live by the principles, right? So they don't doubt that it's going to go bad. They continue moving forward, right? In everything that they do. And so they reap the benefits of it. God says a diligent hand makes a man rich. So if I believe that wholeheartedly, I know God got me, a diligent hand makes me rich. What do I need to do? I need to get to work, right?
No question.
So how, as a Christian, and we have to go to that area, how as a Christian, right, how can we say we're Christian and we believe in Christ and we're so fearful and doubtful of all of his promises? Can you tell me that, Coach?
No, I can't. And that's my biggest concern about people is why can't we get to a place where we trust God? We literally, I choose not to have these conversations and discussions with people, Doc, because I'm not going to get into a fight with you.
Right.
But again, if someone can tell me online right now what group, what entity, what organization is going to be able to declare and decree that COVID-19 is under control and we have a better plan, who is that going to be? Because to this point, they've all said all kinds of stuff across the board. So why are you going to believe them now? I'm looking at this thing from a bigger picture perspective. We talked about the dilemma of doubt. Are you prepared to wear a mask the rest of your life?
I'm not.
Mr. Penny? So again, I don't know who the person is going to be that's going to relieve your nerves to the point where you say, I can take it off now. Because basically what you said is, I need to wear one the rest of my life. Because everybody that says, so if President Trump is not reelected, is the new president going to be able to say it? Well, what qualifies him? What qualifies the new Congress? What qualifies any of these people to tell you that the vaccine, we talked about this before, I just heard that Pfizer and another pharmaceutical company just got approved for vaccine by December, right? So, vaccines, the history of them, they've been 30 to 60% successful. That's enough? So, 30 to 60% is enough for a vaccine, but it ain't enough to start a business.
No.
It's not enough to forgive or have grace. That's crazy.
And who has to be that person in your life? I mean, we talk about this all the time. John Gottman.
Right.
Right? We talk
Awesome.
about John Gottman. Not John Gottman. I'm sorry. The
Miseducation Negro.
No. Golly,
We read a lot of books, y'all. We read a lot of books.
I'm stuck. New York teacher. The teacher.
Oh, John Gatto.
John
Gato. Yeah,
John Gato. There we
Yep.
go. John Gato. And he talks about how we were conditioned. To be validated by someone else. It's amazing how you can go to school and they can say Christopher Columbus discovered America, and we all know that Native Americans lived here.
Correct.
Right? So we are constantly searching for someone to give us an answer, to tell us we can go. Remember we was at the, what the guy tell us that one time, that he went to the pastor about starting a business?
Yeah.
And the pastor said, okay, it's not the right time. But then he goes back to the pastor and say he started a business. The pastor said, no problem, give me 51% of the company.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But it's amazing. Pastor had to wait to tell you
Right.
to go out and do something that God had put in your heart.
Correct. I think that's the dilemma. I think that we need to realize that almost everyone has a Garden of Eden experience.
Mm-hmm.
There is something whispered in you that goes against the plan of God, goes against the unction of your gut, that makes you wonder, is it the right tree? Did God tell me to do that? God told you to pursue. He told David and Ziklag, go pursue and you'll recover it all. He told him to go do that. Well, what did David say? You know what, God, you sure?
You sure that's what I'm supposed to do?
I don't know about that now.
Right.
It sounds good. It got theory behind it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. And I think that's the dilemma that most people face. They don't trust their own gut because they don't trust who they are.
Right. And I think
and whose they are.
Correct. And I believe overcoming the doubt is a test to success.
No question.
Right? So if I can overcome everything that's supposed to stop me, if I can go through hell and I can keep going, if I can see the light at the end of the tunnel and keep pushing. See, God is constantly testing our faith. Will you believe me or you won't believe me? Right? When they took everything away from Job in the Bible, right? He took everything away from Job, and Job still did not doubt him in any way.
No.
Right? He said, you know what? We can do everything to him but kill him.
Right.
And not one time did he have doubt in his heart. Oh. Guess what? He restored everything.
No question. No question.
Was it tenfold?
I mean, he got everything. He got double. The preacher would tell you he got double for his trouble.
Right.
That's what he tell you. He got
But
double
the reality is, overcoming that doubt is our keys to success, right? Understanding and walking by faith is our keys to success. But we have to get to a point where we trust in God's word more than we trust in what the world has said. We have to get to a point where we trust in God's word more than what we think we've seen, more than the tape we've told ourselves, more than what our friends have said. And I think that's really one of the things that God is waiting for. Are you going to have faith enough to step up and move forward?
But I think what goes back to what we said earlier. I think if you asked a human being if they have doubt, they would say no.
Right.
They would say they're cautious. They would say they're apprehensive. They say they want to check it out. They wouldn't say doubt. And I really believe it's the lack of ownership of doubt. It's the lack of owning the fact, you know what, I do doubt. Because you can't get beyond something you don't acknowledge.
Because it's a negative connotation.
Correct.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you have to own that first in order to acknowledge. You got to acknowledge it to overcome it.
Absolutely.
And they don't acknowledge it.
Absolutely.
So I'll say, well, no, I'm just being cautious. No, I'm listening to what everybody else is saying. No, I'm following the crowd. That's more of where they feel comfortable.
Safe.
I don't have to be right or wrong. If all these people are wrong, I'll be wrong with them, and I won't be a standout. Or if they're all right, then I'm in the right flow. And I think again, that's back to the dilemma of doubt. Is it something that you can get over? Can people get over doubt?
Absolutely. And I've said it a million times. The hardest thing is not to learn; it's to relearn what you think you know.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's easy to learn any subject, but going back and digging deep into that deeply rooted, that how your mother felt, how your dad talked, what they told you, getting over the relationship bond that you feel as though, I'm disrespecting them by going my own path. Like, that's the part that's hard, right? Leaving those friends alone who are pessimistic, pessimistic or doubtful that they can go any further in life, or that you can't make $20,000 without seeing yourself and expecting to make $20,000. But you have people who've never seen that type of money, so they always doubt they can make it.
Correct.
Right?
Apprehension, justification, and caution. Those three words are words that replace doubt and are used for people who are not sure about what they want to do.
Correct.
So as we move forward, we're almost done here. As we move forward and looking at people that are apprehensive, they're cautious, and they are
Doubtful.
Justification. So they lead doubt. So those three people right there. Here's my question to you all. All of you all that have been adamant about everybody wrong who don't wear no mask, everybody who wrong who don't believe in social distancing, everybody's wrong with that. What if you find out you wrong? I wonder what's going to happen to these folks if they realize that they've been hoodwinked, they've been bamboozled, they've been run amok, they've been led astray. What if that? Well, I wonder if they could even own that. They are going to go back to justification, apprehension. Because see, truth be told, the reality of it is that this cannot be what it's been cracked up to be, because it's changed too many darn times since we started.
Well, and the grim reality is, do I believe COVID is real? Absolutely.
No question.
I believe it's a
I was
disease.
just coughing a minute ago. It's real.
Do I believe COVID's real? Absolutely. And I think my biggest problem with this is there's not a person who's thinking for themselves, right? I think that's the problem that bothers me more than anything.
Well, they can't.
Your
because
situation,
you can't go in the store, you can't live unless you do it our way.
No, but what I'm saying is it group thinking? Now, if you're putting on a mask because guess what? I have this issue. Okay, I understand that wholeheartedly, but are you putting it on because everybody's rushing to it? See, that's the problem I'm always going to have with individuals. If I'm doing it just because everyone else is doing it, then I have a problem with it.
Right.
If you're doing it based off your own circumstances, that's a completely different thing. But if you're doing it based off of what everyone else is doing, and this is anything in your life, guys, if you're doing it because of everything that everybody else is doing, you live by group thinking mentality, which means you're not thinking for yourself, right? So the doubt that you have is definitely placed in you by someone else. They're telling you not to live your dreams. They're telling you not to go out and start a business. They're telling you not to get back in dating. And it's what you ruminate through your mind constantly every day, that I should not get up and live my dream. I should not get up and go after what I want.
Think for myself. And we're not talking about masks, y'all. Again, we're using these analogies because
it has nothing to do with masks.
I live in Jacksonville, Florida. They say you got to wear a mask when they go out. When I go out in public, I wear a mask. Why? Because the Bible tells me that I'm to obey them that have order. I'm going to obey the rules of the land. I got to do that. So I'm not going to sit here, and that's why I don't debate it. But at the end of the day, you are. We're talking about the mentality that goes with that.
Correct.
Are you just a follower, or are you just doing it because everybody's there? Are you doing it because you're afraid to stand on your own? You're afraid to step out. And if you are, that's fine. That's your choice. That's your issue. But don't expect success, change, application, life lift if you're not willing to do that. I have to think for myself. And you know what? It means you stand by yourself sometimes. But at the end of the day, if you start standing for what you believe in, you'll find out you're not alone.
And you'll start getting what you want.
Correct. And that's the big. But I think people aren't ready for what they want. I think people are learned to accept what they're given, and that's why living this way makes sense. That's why I believe this dilemma of doubt is something they don't want to be healed from. They don't want to be cured from. They don't want to have it alleviated because it's where they have a resonance of peace. It's sad that people have peace in doubt. They have literal comfort and stability in the area of indecision.
Because it makes them feel comfortable.
Correct. Because they can blame somebody else. If it's wrong, then they can blame somebody else. But they don't understand that it's a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of life. It's a now determining factor in everything that you do.
Absolutely.
We don't doubt on a regular basis.
Sure.
We understand that if we're moving in the right direction, there are going to be obstacles and challenges that come to see if it can throw us off.
Absolutely.
But I'm telling you, for me, it's the last thing I'll say, is that I truly, when I'm concerned about what's next, I go to God about it.
Absolutely.
This has been the Real GM Show. I am Grayson Marshall Jr., the metacognition expert, Maven, the guy that gets you to believe in you. And that man over there, my friend,
Dr. Adrian, never forget the A Gentry, the guy that helps you choose excellence in every part of your life.
Next week, we're working on a show with Chris Touchton. and Brent Freeze.
It's gonna be stupid.
Two of good friends. We did a Building the Bridge
Men's group.
and it was about racial building bridges between the races.
Right.
And we're gonna bring them on, and we're gonna talk about what's been going on. We're gonna get their perspective. And what's funny is that Chris resonated with some of the, I want to say, real conservative ideologies, so much so that he even admitted to us that he was offended by, or couldn't understand why he was mad with some African Americans getting some college scholarships that he didn't get.
Right.
So it was a neat. And when I hit him up, Agent said, "Great, call him up." I called him, and he said, "Grayson, I'm all in." So these guys have been healed from that.
Mm-hmm.
They really struggled on the other side, and you hear it from some God-fearing, God-loving men that really struggle with the fact that they had real prejudices.
And I think it's going to blow a lot of people's minds.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people are going to see that, wait a minute, one, we're not that different.
Exactly. Exactly.
And two, that a lot of this, a lot of the hate, a lot of anger, a lot of prejudice just stems from miseducation.
Correct. And what they've been through. So join us next week. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Have a great week. We're excited for you. Deal with the dilemma of doubt, because it's only keeping you from where you need to go. We'll see you next week. Peace.
What else is there? I'll tell you what else there is. This blue crab.
Yeah.
I need a hard surface to work on, so I want to go there eat him.
All right.
In a historically industrial building in St. Augustine, there's a cool craft taking place with a vintage vibe.